I am Carol, and this is Eric, and we are flirting with reality today.
Woo.
Woo!
Yay.
Exciting.
Yes. Please don't turn the YouTube video off. Okay, so it's another week. What are we going on? What's going on? What's happening with you?
So many things. I can't narrow them down. Going on with you.
A lot's going on with me. I'm tired right now though. I had just a day where it's like I tried to do a bunch of stuff and nothing worked. It's just like calling it good. Like I'm just gonna stop working, and then I come inside and it's just like nothing seems to want to work. Like it's what you and I talk about all the time about. Um, I don't know if a good example, but like you want to open a bank account, and it's just like, it's like you got to do like 40 things, and it's just like that's how I feel today. Is I just feel like everything's so painful. Like, I was trying to do like an Instagram post, and it's like, okay, like, what do you got to do the post of? And then like, okay, well, I figured that out. And then like, you got to find the picture. And like, I'm looking back, like that's one of the most annoying things in the world is when you're looking for a picture
Yeah.
amongst like 5,000 pictures and you're like, I don't know where it's at. And you're like thumbing through it. And it's like, and then like you go to put it on Instagram and then Instagram like deletes it or something. And like, it's just like some things just feel like a lot of effort. And I feel like it's nonstop today with everything I'm doing is like that, where it's just like nonstop, just dragging through, trying to get things to work. Just the basics. I don't feel like I'm doing anything really hard. Actually, that's not true. I was trying to learn how to paint cars, and I think that's what started it all. And I've been working on that for weeks, and I feel like I'm no closer. So but it's just, yeah, it just feels that way. It just feels like I haven't gotten anything done in a while. That's kind of where I'm at.
I'm pretty tired too, but not because I had a day like that, just because I didn't sleep very much.
Yeah. Not much sleep. Um, yeah, so I guess what we wanted to talk about, or what we're thinking about was talking about, is I've had, I think I was going into it on our last podcast, talking about how I had identified something in my life that was significantly affecting me and my mood almost on a daily basis. And, we talked about kind of finding Joe Dispenza and just how enlightening that was and how life changing it was, just all of a sudden, and then that coupled in with the sauna and the cold bath and all that stuff. And that kind of continued on with me, but then it got way more intense because then I started doing Joe Dispenza meditation. And I guess it just kind of put me in like a whole different reality. And I guess I'm tired because I'm trying to think about how everything went. But Joe Dispenza, what he talks about is, well, I don't know. So maybe we just want to like talk about like where does this all start, because it's kind of like we were talking about last night. Is Joe Dispenza talks about, well, if you have thoughts and these thoughts are making you feel negative things, then you change the way your thoughts are. But I think like to me, it's like I feel like you got to take a step back to that and say, I mean, you got to like recognize your thoughts. And I think a lot of people would think that's like, oh yeah, of course I do. But for me, I don't even think that started until I was like in my early 30s, like actually more, I guess, more talking about recognizing feelings. like, how do I feel right now? And that was actually a huge deal for me, is how do I feel right now? And most of the time in my 30s, I would just feel angry or I'd feel a certain way. And then I couldn't tell you why I felt that way. I had no idea. Like I'd just be like at a car wash or something. I'd be like mad. I'd be like, well, why am I even mad? And then I have to think and I'd be like, oh, well, this morning I, whatever, I dealt with road rage or something. And so now I'm like really angry with this. Um, but I just think it's like it goes back to that.
Yeah, I think most people don't know that they think as much as they do. And I don't believe that they realize that that's become their identity, that they're identifying with their thoughts. I think it is, you definitely need to take a step back. And I started listening to Wayne Dyer around the same time I was listening to Deepak Chopra and meditating with him. And that's his big thing: change your thoughts, change your life. And he's kind of what made me realize how I was thinking, and to take a look at it more deeply than I had been. But I think meditation also allows you to realize, when you're able to stop those thoughts while you're meditating, it becomes more prevalent how often you're thinking things.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd be interested to know like what your experiences were. I guess because that's why I was trying to take a step back from all this because my teens and my 20s pretty much were all just like chaos. There wasn't a whole lot of thinking going on, and it was a lot of acting, trying to fit in, trying to you know have people like me, say the right things or do whatever. And it was just a lot of like, I don't know, it was just a lot of like zombie, like what we talk about, and that's what I'm saying. Like the very first thing for me was to start paying attention to my feelings. And then my feelings kind of led into my thoughts. And then I started paying attention to my thoughts. And then it kind of just deadheaded and I didn't go anywhere because I didn't know where to take it until I went into therapy. And then my therapist really helped me like start figuring stuff out like pretty quickly. So, but I think that's the thing is, I guess I wanted to talk about like Joe Dispenza and how much this idea he had helped me and actually how simple it is. But and it's not really simple. It's a funny thing, but it is. And I guess the reason that I think it's like almost impossible at the same time is like this is what we were talking about last night, is if I hadn't gone through those feelings and I haven't gone through my thoughts and then I hadn't gone through therapy, man, I don't know. Like, do you think like it'd be possible to go back to your 20s and be like, hey, look, here's this guy, Joe Dispenza, and he's going to tell you to change your thoughts? I mean, and you just be like, oh, okay. I mean, do you
Yeah,
think
I
that's
think your
possible for you?
20s, it's very hard to, you think you know everything in your 20s. I did. I was very bullheaded and thought I was badass and really wasn't. But no, I don't think, I think it would take a very present 20-year-old to, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I just don't think it's as likely to be able to.
Well, and I guess this too. So we both had somewhat rough childhoods. Do you think Well, so I guess it's all been interesting because I would guess that somebody with a rough childhood versus somebody that has a healthy childhood is actually more present, and more aware. And I think like I think that's a lot of the reason like I wasn't present is because my childhood sucked. And that's one of the most interesting things that Joe talks about is the the more you're stressed, the more you focus on a problem. And then the more you're focused on that problem, the more you're in the system, which means the less aware you are, basically. So it's like the more you're focused and stressed on a problem, the less conscious and aware you are of the world around you. And I think when you have a bad childhood, you're super stressed. You can be ultra stressed depending on the trauma. And then that takes you right out of awareness and it just puts you into being a zombie right from the get go. And, I think it's interesting because, if you've ever been around like a real dangerous person, somebody like maybe that wants to fight or like wants to shoot you or I don't know what. I mean, don't you have that feeling of like, oh, there's no talking to this person. This person's like crazy. There's no talking to them.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that's very likely because they're in the system, they're in their consciousness, subconsciousness. And so they're not aware and so you can't reason with this person
Yeah.
because they're stressed. And so it's just kind of been interesting, but I think that's the reason in my 20s that I couldn't have been told anything like this is because I was just so unaware because I was stressed and I was focused on being addicted to anger, which I don't know for a 20-year-old male, I think that's hard because I think you have so much like testosterone, just crap going on that I think it's easy to be focused and focused on problems and anger.
Yeah, I mean, my 20s were very different. I had kids very young, so my focus was on providing for them. I wasn't, I wouldn't say, I was angry at my mom for sure, but I wasn't like angry all the time. But I was also very guarded and definitely in the system. I was for sure a zombie.
Yeah. Well, so I guess kind of moving through that, you know, what I'm originally trying to get to here is that his message for me that I got through this week was very simple and it was just like, well, what are your thoughts doing to you? And I broke it down and I deal with these thoughts of being criticized, which I don't think they're just made up. I think I've been criticized. I think a lot of people are criticized throughout their whole life. And I think it's a major thing, but apparently I take it harder than most people, or I focus on it, or as Joe says, I'm addicted to focusing on it, and being addicted to focusing on it, which just like makes me mad and makes me upset and brings a negative feeling. And so it's like the message is so simple that it's just like, well, stop thinking those things. And then his thing is like, well, what do you want to think about? And that's actually the hardest part is because when I started into it, I was like, well, what do I want to think about? And I didn't know. And so it just became stop thinking about this stuff. And then it just kept coming in and it kept coming in because I wasn't thinking about anything else.
Yeah, and I think it's like he said, you need a plan, you need a way out. Otherwise, you just get right back into the situation.
Yeah. Well, and so I did one of his meditations and it was crazy because it just like led me right into all the answers I needed. And I feel like I felt like something gave it to me, like gave me these answers, and I think that's really weird because I don't not believe in anything, but I don't believe in anything at the same time as far as God or anything like that. It's like I'm not against God. I just don't necessarily believe in God, but if we had a good conversation about him and you made some good points, I'd be like, okay, well, I believe in God today. I could be flipped that easy, but I just need something convincing. But I feel like it was weird because I went into this meditation and I was telling you, I literally felt hypnotized. And it just gave me the answers. And my answer was just to be mindful and present, which to me is my biggest problem is I have these thoughts when I'm working. I feel criticized when I'm working, mostly because I probably get criticized through my work. But my answer was to be mindful and present. And so that is to like focus heavily on my work, like look so detailed into my work. That's what I want to think about instead of the criticism. So that's the message I got through that meditation, which was actually a big deal. And, he just walked me through like, well, how do I want to feel? And, I started thinking about, well, when I build something and it turns out great, like it's an amazing feeling. And I usually attach to that feeling. And so that's basically what he wants you to do is think about what you want to think about. Don't think about what you don't want to think about, and think about the feeling you're going to have attached to it. And it all came very easily to me in that meditation. And so that's what I did that day. And it worked out so good. And I've been practicing that. This is day 3 now. And, it's been working out really good. Like today was a little rough because I had multiple things come up, but,
I was going to ask you about that. So when you had this situation come up, it was harder to get in that gratitude feeling?
um, the thing was I was taking my time, I was being present, I was being mindful with what I was doing today.
Mm-hmm.
But to be totally honest, and I don't really want to bring this up on a podcast, but I'll just bring it up anyway. There were there were 2 situations that came up today that like really bothered me, like that I had a hard time getting over. It was like external people that I had to deal with that were super annoying and so it messed with me a little bit, but I was able to kind of like power through it. But at the same time, well, I don't know. It's like, this is what I'm saying. That's a weird thing about, I'm sitting there in a meditation and something giving me the answers. Like, I don't feel like it's me. I feel like something's like, here you go. Like, here's a gift. But
Well, I don't know if you know what a lot of spiritual gurus and Joe Dispenza tell you that you're doing when you disconnect from your mind and you connect to, I think we talked about it a little bit last night. You go nowhere and you become no one and you're nothing. What you're doing is connecting to a oneness. A oneness that has information and has the capability of changing your physiology, giving you information.
yeah, but it's okay. So the funny thing is, we were talking about last night and we were talking about, I'm always talking about this, but we've had a podcast talking about the devil inside you and how the devil is always trying to push you to do the wrong things. And I'm like, how all of a sudden do I meditate and it's pushing me to do the right things? And it's also the funny thing because like, okay, so the meditation helped me, but I feel like today was a setup because so what I've been doing in the morning is I'm doing meditation, and then I'm doing gratitude session. But today was funny because I did my meditation, and I guess it was just a mistake because there's this YouTube channel that's, I don't know, copying Joe's stuff or redistributing it or having like whatever. Like they just do like a screensaver basically, and then have his recording.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to their. That's what I listened to the other 2 days, and then I listened to it today, and it was just really weird. It's like just as weird as like who's giving me these answers. It's like who's fucking me over today. you know, like kind of like the devil, because I'm listening to this meditation and I don't know what happened, but like I don't know, I'd have to like listen to it again, but like the recording was messed up or something. So it's like Joe Dispenza's saying, they're like, hey, you know, like do this. And then all of a sudden he said something and he's like, hey, do this maybe tomorrow. And it said something weird. And I'm like, what? Like, where the fuck did that come from? And I'm like, whatever, I'm just meditating. And then, and he would say, you know, I don't know if you listen to his meditations, but it says, you know, he'll say like, take a deep breath in or something. And then he'll say, notice your breath. And then take a deep breath out and notice your feelings. Or I think he says something like that.
I've done many a meditation of his and never heard that before.
Oh, really? It's been in every one I've done. But so today he goes, take a deep breath in, and then he pauses, you know, and he goes, and now notice your breathes. I was like, notice your breathes. Like,
I think these are AI.
well, that's what it was like. Somebody was reading it, and instead of breath, they said breathe. And so that was weird. And then at some point in the recording, he's like talking about meditation, and then he goes like with his like it makes this weird sound with his mouth, and I'm like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, but he did that like a couple times, and I'm like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, who's fucking with me today? Like,
AI sounds like.
Okay, so AI is fucking with me through the YouTube video, but then it's super convenient that I go out to work and I have two different people in my life that come in and they're just like, hey, fuck your day, Eric. Like, and it's like Jesus Christ, like I was doing so good, you know, and then like, and I'm still trying to hold my shit together, but it's like when you have two things just back to back and people are like kind of coming at you, it's like, it's just annoying. It's annoying and it's hard to deal with. And then my work that I'm doing, like I'm being mindful and I'm being present, super present with it, but I don't know how to do it. And so I just fuck it up because I don't know what to do. And then it's just like, that's what I'm saying. And then you go on an app and you're like trying to post on Instagram, and then Instagram's like, no, never mind, we fucked it over and deleted it. You know, and it's just like, oh, like, what's happening today? Like, it's you know, as I'm saying, like the same voice that set me up for success is the same thing that's like, no, not today. I'm in a bad mood, so fuck your whole entire life.
That's not gonna happen. You're just gonna have days like that, and it's like you start over tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's fine, and that's kind of how I took it too. But I just thought it was funny that.
Yeah, it sounds kind of. I've caught a few of these fake AI Joe Dispenza things. One of them I caught, like it sounded like it was. You remember how records used to make that noise? The
static.
Yeah, scratch. Like
yeah,
it sounded like that. And yeah, I don't know. I just guess be careful. But
well, I'm not listening to this channel anymore. Like,
yeah.
Like, how disappointing is that? And I don't know, maybe you should be beyond that, but how disappointing is it to sit down, take time out of your morning and do this meditation and get like 15 minutes through it, and then it starts like saying weird shit. It's like, that is so disappointing.
I'd just be really careful. Maybe go to joedispenza.com or something and find his real one.
Yeah.
Because these people are just trying to make money on there and they don't give a shit about anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first 2 days were great, I guess. But anyway, I feel like I'm like so tired that I'm not even making sense tonight. But I feel like we're going round and round.
I'm barely functioning.
I mean, I feel like, what are we at? 24 minutes, and I feel like I'm still working on the very first point from the beginning of the podcast. But anyway, I'm just saying here, it was like his advice is so simple, and I did the meditation, and it came to me. And so my answer was to be present, and it changed everything that I did. And then the next day came around, and I guess I just wanted, like, you know, what we call like spinning plates. I wanted to start spinning another plate. And so it was like, well, what's your intention today? And you know, I was going to spend time with my kids, and I just was like, I want to be very present. I want to enjoy my time with my kids, and like I just want to enjoy my life. And um, it was just crazy because that meditation was the same thing, and it was like, oh, hey, it's the same answer that you had during work to get rid of all these negative thoughts. And that answer is just to spend time with your children and focus on them so heavily, like look at them in detail and focus on your conversations in detail. And then, man, I wish I would have recorded this last night, because it made much more sense. But it all kind of came together because the first time I feel like I'd actually ever been present in my life, like really mindful, is the story I've told you, where I years ago, I had a crawl space in my house, and you know, there was like 2 to 3 feet of room to crawl in the crawl space. And so I got this really smart idea to dig it out with a shovel. And worst thing I ever did in my life. Like, that's like David Goggins kind of shit, you know, like taking a shovel and putting your dirt in a bucket and then carrying it out like a 2 foot by 2 foot door thousands of times. It was, I worked on that thing for years. But anyway, I was digging out my crawl space in my house, and I had to go to Home Depot to get some supplies. And it was the first time I'd ever been mindful, because I was standing at the cash register, and I was like 6 people back from paying, and the girl was just, I don't know what she was doing, slowest person ever. And like, so that was my mentality back in the day, was, what the fuck is this lady doing? Like, I can't stand here forever. I'm irritated. I'm angry. Like, and it was the very first time in my life I was ever present. And I was like, oh, but you know what I'm not doing is I'm not digging out the crawl space. And it was such a huge moment for me, because I was like, oh, like this moment is great. Like, just standing here in line is great. Even though that lady's screwing me around, screwing us all around, it's so amazing to just be here and like be able to relax for a minute. And so I had that huge combination of thoughts in that meditation of like, um, I actually known the answer, which is these thoughts that drive me crazy when I work is mindfulness and presence. Spending time with my kids and enjoying it is mindfulness and presence. And it's like all these things, it's the same thing. It's just the present moment, you know, and it's just and
Yeah,
well,
it's a
and
big deal living. This is all you have.
yeah, and but then that's the other thing that came in. So all these things I'm figuring out, like a lot of my problems are because I'm not mindful and present. And then the way I've figured out to be mindful and present is to have gratitude in that moment. That's my easiest way to find it. So that's why I'm saying in Home Depot, when I was like, oh, but I'm not working on the crawl space, I'm really enjoying this moment. So it was kind of like everything just came together. And so then I started thinking about, well, if I'm going to be present and mindful, then I need to have gratitude for the moment. And then I started thinking about, okay, well, I want to have gratitude. Like, that's what I want. Because if I have gratitude, it brings me the mindfulness, brings me the presence. And so when I came out of that meditation, I started cooking breakfast. And as I was telling you, like the first couple minutes, I was like, oh, well, I'm, you know, really grateful for my scrubbing sponge in the sink. Like, just stupid stuff. You know, I'm really grateful I have eggs, and I'm really grateful these eggs crack easy, and I'm really grateful that eggs are delicious and they're healthy. And then I did that for a couple minutes, and then um, my subconscious took over, and it just started doing it all on its own. And it was so amazing. It just created for the best day ever, because it just, all of a sudden my subconscious is just like, oh my gosh, you like everything's so great, and there's so much greatness all around you. And I don't know. And then we were talking about how we had other talks about how even you and I become ungrateful over some really cool things. Like we were talking about the hydroponics and how we were like, man, that's going to be it's going to be mind blowing. Have hydroponics and eat salads off the wall. And then all of a sudden we started eating salads off the wall, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's all right. I like it. It's fun. But it's not, it's like the gratitude went away.
I don't know if your gratitude goes away, but you become, I think you just become like you're used to it. And yeah, I mean, less appreciative.
Yeah. You don't care anymore. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. Like, I mean, well, that's a conversation I was having with you is it could always be worse. Like, it
You
could
get
always be worse.
complacent if you allow yourself to. And I think that's a huge thing that I work on, is not to be complacent in life, because you literally don't know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about, is when the power went off a couple weeks ago, how grateful we were because the power went off. So that means we didn't have heat. We didn't have lights. We didn't have, a TV. We didn't have anything. And so it really made us grateful for the things that we normally have. So life took some things away from us, and it made us appreciate life more. And that's what we were even talking about. Like, that's why you don't spoil a child, is because you get them used to a certain standard of living, and then that's just normal for them. And so if they don't have that standard, that great standard anymore, now it's depressing. It can be depressing. And they get used to just a high standard. So it's, like we're talking about the chickens, like when the chickens start laying eggs, how awesome is that going to be? And then 2 weeks into the chickens laying eggs, we'll be like, yeah, no, did you get I don't want to get the eggs today. You get the eggs today. Like, nobody wants to get the eggs because we don't care about the eggs. It's like gratitude goes down the drain. And I think that's why you have to force recognizing gratitude. Because that's what you're saying. Like how, what percentage of the world doesn't even have clean drinking water? And I think I'm the weird one for that, because I always appreciate the water coming out of the tap. Like, I watch it run out of the faucet, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I can't believe you can just run this. You could run this thing all day, literally, and nobody would care. Nobody would tell
Yeah.
you to turn it off or anything. But we have clean drinking water that people walk miles for water that gives them diarrhea that kills them.
I mean, I've been doing a gratitude session for years, and some of it's just repetitive every day of simple things like, I'm grateful that I woke up in a comfortable bed. I'm grateful that I woke up breathing and that I'm healthy and that my body allows me to taste things and smell things and hear things. And so I have this thing that I do every day that's like that. But then you reach deeper and grab into your day, and it's an amazing way to start your day.
Well, I mean, just how much is there to be grateful for?
But you really can't just, like I'm talking about, when you're saying these same things, you can't just go, I'm grateful for my breath, I'm grateful for my bed.
Yeah.
You really need to think about what you have here. Like, our bed is so fucking comfortable. Our pillows are so fucking comfortable. I am extremely grateful that I wake up. Could you imagine just all of a sudden having to sleep on a stone floor and remembering this amazing bed that you once were able to sleep in, that maybe you didn't appreciate very much? But anyway, yeah, really feeling it, not just because I kind of made it sound like it was a routine. It's not just a
Oh.
routine. I feel every single thing that I'm grateful for.
Well, but I think it's even deeper than that. Is like, I kind of do the same thing, but I'm just kind of thinking about it now. Is like, I think if you go like, oh man, our bed's so awesome, which it is, like I'm so grateful for it, but it's almost like you can't grasp the amount of gratitude because what if you, like you're saying, like sleeping on a stone floor. So what if you had a shitty bed? Like that's something also to be grateful for because it's still not a stone floor. You know what I mean? And so like it's just like another way to get to even higher level of gratitude is to be like, not only do I not have a shitty bed, I don't have a stone floor, I don't sleep on the dirt, I have an amazing bed. Like think about how crazy that is. That's what I'm saying with the water too, is like, not only do I just turn on my tap and have an unlimited amount of cold or hot water, whichever one I want, I don't have to walk to get it. And when I walk to get it, it's not dirty and full of like diseases. And like, it's like, there's so much to be grateful for. And that's what I'm saying. When I came out of that meditation, once, if you look around at your life, there is so much to be grateful for. It is overwhelming the amount of stuff. And I'm not saying in mine and your lives, I'm saying in almost anybody's life. Like this is the funny thing, right? So we talk about like what is money? Like who invented money and what does poor mean? And that's what we're talking about. Like, so there's some kid from the ghetto and his mom's poor, he's poor, they don't have any money and everything. But that's all made up, right? Because poor when I was a child is not the same thing as poor today. When I was poor as a child, we didn't have a 72-inch big screen TV, and we didn't have an Escalade, and we didn't have $200 pairs of jeans. Like we didn't have. That's what some poor people have today, But and then like that's not even anything to cry about. When I was a kid, when my dad was a kid, he wasn't really poor, but he lived in a cellar outside that didn't have heat. He lived in a cellar. It was, I'm making things up, but a 10-foot by 10-foot cellar. And he shared that cellar that had no heat in like 0-degree temperatures with his 8 brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? It's like, and nobody's crying about that because it was before, it's just how it went, you know? But it's just gratitude. Like they were grateful to have somewhere to live, somewhere to sleep, even though it was shitty. And if somebody had that today, that would be undone. Like there's no gratitude. Even that's what I'm saying. Even poor people today have something to be grateful for. I think about this. If you're poor, you can still be grateful that you walk around. You have legs. Well, maybe you don't have legs, but you're still alive. You're still breathing. Like there's always something to be grateful for. And that's what we're saying. Like, so the poorest people in the United States are still some of the richest people in the world. But you're sad because you're poor in the United States. But you're
We
rich
don't
in
know
the rest
all
of the
of
world.
them are sad. Some of them could be happy.
I would say a majority of people who are labeled poor are sad here because they're told that they're not equal and they have less when really they could have as much or more than a major percentage of the rest of the world. But none of it matters. It's all about being grateful for what you do have. And you always have something. That's what I'm saying. Like we're talking about, like one of the worst things I could think about is being like a prisoner of war and like sitting in some cell somewhere and being beat or like abused. And I think if you were a badass like Rambo, you could still be appreciative of being a prisoner of war. Like you could still find gratitude, and you can still, that's that's cheating the system. When you are in the worst place possible and you find something to be grateful for, which makes you happy, that's cheating the system. But that's the funny thing, is it doesn't matter how much money you have. You could be rich and you could be sad because you're not grateful. But you could be poor and you could be happy because you are grateful. Like happiness is just a state of mind. And like from where I'm sitting lately, that you're the one that said this, which was another thing that came into my meditation that was really weird. Is you were talking, who were you talking about that said that? That said, like, if you were grateful, it's not possible to be depressed.
I think it was Deepak Chopra.
No, it made total sense to me because I was like, how happy people think about happy things. That's it. It's over. Angry, sad people think about negative things. That's it. It's really that simple. If you want to be happy, you think about happy things. And that's what, like when you were coming in, that's what you were saying is like, you can't be grateful. Gratitude is a happy thing. You can't be grateful and be sad. It's just not it's impossible to do. You have to think negative things to be sad. And this all comes back to what we started the podcast off with is what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about sad things? Are you thinking about how poor you are? Are you thinking about, well, how about we turn that around and we think about good things and now you're a happy person just because you changed the things you think about. That's the only difference between a happy and a sad person is the things that they think about, which is wild. It's wild. It's wild how easy yet how impossible that can be.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
You know, maybe this is like a sleepy podcast, huh?
Probably a little bit.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything to add? I guess we could just cut it off since we're kind of on the sleepy train.
No, I think we pretty much talked about everything we talked about last night.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's the other thing I guess I was going to share is um, even today, when today was hard, it's kind of something that was getting me through as I was trying to remember, you know, it's all about presence, it's all about mindfulness, and it's all about gratitude. Those are the things I'm focusing on. And so when I had one of the many issues come up today, like that's kind of where I'm going with all this. Like my rule, my soft rule that I've made so far is if if something comes up and I think something negative, say a person is saying something to me, I'm like, oh, this person is always like nagging at me. If I have that negative thought, I try to counter that with two gratitude thoughts about that person or about a thing. And so that's what I was trying to do today, and it actually did help. And it made it at least so I didn't focus on these people and things. But say it's kind of hard when it's just repetitive, like one thing after another is like coming at you, and then you got to, you know, it's just
Yeah, I mean, it's a life experiment. I think
yeah,
you've just started, and there's going to be days like that, and I think they're just teaching days. I don't think they mean anything other than you're learning more about yourself.
yeah. Well, I'm ready for another good day. I had 2 killer days, 2 amazing, life-changing days, so I'm ready to get back at it. And I think tomorrow will be it.
Probably.
Okay, nothing to add. Okay, well, we're not on Facebook so much anymore because Carol quit using her phone, which made me realize the the phone sucks. And so that's another thing we're talking about, right? Is like, well, how does using a phone make you feel? And I think we both realized it makes us feel like crap, and so we're not there. We're not doing something that makes us feel like crap.
Yeah, that sums it up.
So I'm not spending much time on Facebook. Um, every once in a while, you know, if I have a thought or something, I'll just pop in there and put it on there. But not spending any time on my personal profile or the Flirting with Realities profile or even my business profile. I advertise something and get back off because it's that toxic on there. And then I guess our YouTube videos don't really have like the thumbnails they did anymore because Carol's really not using her phone.
I thought we were kind of waiting to see too if they did better without thumbnails. Because I thought they had more views without thumbnails.
I mean, who knows? Maybe. I mean, maybe you guys could tell us if you care about thumbnails, or if it's something that attracts you to watch the video as a thumbnail. You know, she does the titles and the writings on the thumbnail.
Yeah, that would not be anything that would disrupt my phone situation, my 30-day thing. But I thought we were testing it out. I thought these videos were doing better without them.
I don't know. I really don't care. I was just saying we're not using our phone so much, and so like some things are changing. But anyway, I guess we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, and this is episode 29.
Holy smokes, 29, almost 30.
Almost 30. So thanks for watching. Give us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. I think there's a couple of you. Our subscribers went up, which is awesome. So that's appreciated. Our views are kind of going up too. So I don't know if anybody's constantly watching or if there's just a bunch of randoms every time. But if you guys got something to say, let us know. We're glad to hear it. Bye.